In Memphis, dozens of people surrounding this FedEx truck as it was stopped in traffic, breaking the back latch before ransacking the inside and running away with as many boxes as they could hold. Even after the driver starts to pull away, thieves run after the truck, jump on it, and take more boxes.
In traffic, though, folks.
In Atlanta, an Amazon worker returning from a delivery finds several suspects sprinting up to the truck, stealing packages at random from the back. These groups overwhelming drivers in a similar tactic used by flash mobs at retail stores in cities like Los Angeles and Philadelphia.
Weird, I thought none of this was actually happening at all and everything was hunky-dory in America. Now, as you saw from that video, delivery workers across the country are on edge and even fear for their safety following increased reports of large mobs basically robbing packages from their trucks. This includes workers at Amazon, UPS, and FedEx. Now, hours after a horde of motorists blocked the FedEx semi-truck in Memphis, a group of thieves ransacked an Amazon delivery van in Atlanta in broad daylight. You saw a little bit of that in the previous video. Here's more on that incident.
In the truck, okay. Look, work right there. Oh my God. He hell, man. Show the hell. Look.
And several weeks ago, thieves in Los Angeles literally caused a crash so then they can proceed to rob the individual that they targeted in the crash. Here's some video on that.
Oh,
Look at that. Look at that. Brand new car. Brand new cars.
So you see the driver of the vehicle on his knees with his hands up as the individuals who caused the crash rob him. A van full of masked robbers chased a driver down the Santa Monica 10 freeway, deliberately causing a crash in order to rob the driver as he emerged from the wreckage. And that's according to the California Highway Patrol. The crash and robbery took place at 1:26 p.m. Tuesday on the eastbound 10 west of Arlington Avenue, according to CHP. Video of the attack shot by one of several bystanders shows a black Dodge Caravan chasing the driver of a dark Alfa Romeo, fruitlessly trying to escape with a flat tire. And it's incidents like these that have Americans across the country concerned, not just the delivery drivers, but ordinary Americans who have seen this uptick in crime and they want something to be done about it. So I'll get to some more details on that in just a moment. But Cenk, what are your thoughts?
I'm impressed that you don't know how to pronounce Alfa Romeo. That means you've never even considered that car. So
what even is that?
Yeah, it's a weird, fancy European car. Now, guys, this is the troubling part. So the more shootings there are, this is not a shooting. I'm just gonna get to my point in a sec. More shootings there are, the more the gun manufacturers are thrilled because they sell more guns because people get nervous, right? And they want to protect themselves. And it becomes a vicious circle. The more guns there are, the more shootings there are, the more homicides and suicides there are, and accidents. So I've always advocated against having guns. It makes the house less safe. This is the first time where it made me go, maybe you should. Because if somebody's gonna ram into your car and then put a gun to your head, your family's head, and there's like literally nothing you could do about it, right? Well, you gotta find a way to protect yourself. And so now, that's how frustrated we all are, right? To the point where I start to wonder if we should have guns, right? Then to add insult to injury, some on the left come around and go, there is no crime. You're imagining it. you say that in any of these cities, and you're going to make people so furious that they'll never vote for another Democrat. Like, guys, we have eyes, we have ears, we can see it, we can all see the crime. It's saying that there is no crime. We're not in the Matrix. There is a spoon, there is crime. Like, you're being a lunatic when you say there's no crime when you see stuff like this.
That's right.
And it's not, guys, I know the right wing in the past used to do one-offs. You'll show a video of this particular crime and pretend that it's everywhere. You think we don't know those tricks? We know, we've lived through 100 of those tricks, right? But this is not one-offs. This is not a video from 1997. This is not an unrepresentative video. There are now thousands and thousands of videos of these crimes happening all across the country. And then, when some portions of the left then come and go, it's just because they're disadvantaged people. And the brother's driving a better car than we are.
They're just trying to feed their families. They're just trying to feed their families, Jay.
Come on,
they're
obviously
trying to feed their families.
These are criminal enterprises.
Yes, they are. It's very obvious. There's been deep reporting on that issue. But look, the whole point of, I thought, the whole point of the left, of the progressive movement, was to fight toward a society that improved the lives and the quality of life for Americans. But that is not what happens when these denials and these delusions take place among the American left. And so I want to give you a sense of how ordinary Americans overall are feeling about crime, right? Because it's not just, Fox News is fear-mongering and in reality Americans feel safe and everything is great. That's not the case. So there was a recent Gallup poll that asked Americans how they feel about their safety, and here's what they said. Nearly two-thirds of Americans believe crime is an extremely or very serious problem in the US. The 63% rate is the highest collected by Gallup, with the previous high of 60% found in 2000, 2010, and 2016. Republicans were significantly more likely to believe that crime is going up nationally, with 92% holding that belief compared to 58% of Democrats. Republican respondents also believe national crime was a more serious issue, 78% to 51% of Democrats. Now, keep in mind that Democrats don't want the blame to be placed on the party that's in charge right now, which is the Democratic Party. But call a spade, and also keep in mind that what impacts crime is really the policies that are implemented on a local level. So if you have soft on crime policies that allow for an individual to commit 42 crimes in a row and just get booked and released immediately, well, that communicates to individuals that the norm is that you can do whatever you want with a slap on the wrist. You can move on with your day. And look, I hate to admit it. This is where I was super naive, Cenk. I genuinely thought, no, most people are good. And if you have I guess a more lenient system and you give people a shot to get their act together, they're gonna take advantage of that. And if they see soft on crime policies, law-abiding citizens aren't gonna suddenly decide they're gonna go around committing crimes and robberies and all of the, no. It turns out that there's some percentage of the American population that sees soft on crime policies and they're like, green light. Okay, and as we reported recently, restaurants have also had an incredibly hard time recovering since the coronavirus pandemic, not only due to inflation, but also due to increases in crime. And according to the Federal Bureau of Investigation data collected from 8,300 law enforcement departments, violent crime rose nearly 20% at restaurants from 2019 to 2022. The latest year stats are available. But those 8,300 reporting agencies represent only about 46% of overall police departments and don't include major cities such as New York, San Francisco, Chicago, and Washington, D.C. I give you that information because the so-called leftists saying like, what, crime isn't that high, crime isn't that high, crime isn't that high. It's not, you can't compare it to the 1990s without taking into account, and I think they know this, that a lot of these crimes aren't being reported. The way that we collect the data is deeply flawed. And so if you look at those numbers and you keep in mind that it's only 46% of overall police departments reporting this data, and it doesn't include major cities where crime has increased like New York, San Francisco, Chicago, and Washington, D.C., how are you gonna make that argument that no, actually crime's not a problem at all? You can't, It's not as bad as the 1990s. Oh, wow, great standards you've got there. It's just, I'm done with it. It's so incredibly unpopular. It's a losing issue. You can shroud yourself in delusions all day, every day, but this is what ordinary Americans, including majority Black and brown communities, are dealing with day in and day out, and they're sick of it. And then you wonder why you have the Republican Party drawing in more support among Black and Latino voters. How about you actually work toward making their lives better, not worse?
Yeah, so I want to emphasize a couple of things. First of all, we told you here on TYT well before anyone else did that no, the Democrats also think, the Democratic voters also think that crime is going up, and they're very concerned about it. And some on the left said, no, you're making that up. Oh, really? Well, there it is, 58% of Democrats. 6 out of 10 Democrats think that crime is going up and they're concerned. So told you. So it matters, being right matters. So the next time you hear someone that wasn't right the first time around, question whether they got it right, okay? So, and this is the same exact argument I make against the establishment. They can't read a poll either. They're like, oh no, paid family leave is radical position. The moderate position is defeating it. No, 84% want paid family leave. You can't read a poll? No, most Democrats are worried about crime. You can't read a poll? What is wrong with you? These are numbers. So if you want to spit in the face of your own voters, well, that's a deeply problem politically, but also from a policy perspective. Because who do you think they target the most? Beverly Hills is very well protected. They target the working class. That's who they target the most. And so they're the ones that are on the metro, on the subways, on the buses, and the ones going to work. They're the ones that are taking the brunt of the crime because they are less protected. And cops take a long time to show up. Here, I mean, they hit the, and I want to be clear in case somebody misunderstood what I was saying earlier. The Dodge Caravan hit the Alfa Romeo. They're the victims in this case. Maybe in that case, they're like, oh, a nice car, right? Et cetera, right? But most of the time, it's people that are in poorer areas, that are in working class areas.
They're targeting Amazon drivers.
Come on, what is the Amazon driver supposed to do? Fight back? Okay, this is crazy. All right, but I got more. So look, to be honest, you know, and you've heard me say this for the last 21 years as we've been doing this show. I believe in deterrence, and sometimes it drives people crazy when I say that. But I'm sorry, human beings are built to respond to incentives and disincentives.
It's true.
This is just facts, it's nature. Trying to wish that away is absurd. Pretending it isn't true is absurd. Hey, so if something has a massive penalty or something has no penalty, you think that's not gonna affect a human being? Then you've never met a human being, okay? Now you can argue around the edges, and then finally I want to be very clear about what does it mean to be soft on crime or lenient on crime, because there's totally different things that people mean by that. If you mean being more quote unquote lenient to prisoners by having the Norwegian model of prisons, which are actually where people don't get hurt, there's actually rehabilitation and programs to get you back into the workplace, et cetera, then I love that version. You want to call it lenient, soft, I don't care what adjective you give it, but that leads to less recidivism. A lot less people commit crimes after they get out of a Norwegian prison than after they get out of an American prison. But if you mean, hey, somebody commits a crime, I'm gonna pretend that they're just doing it because they're poor and had to do it, and I'm just gonna let them go. No reasonable human being is in favor of that. And so if you're saying, no, I'm not just letting them go, whoa, hold on. And this is a program that I advocated for. And I'm telling you the part that we got right and the part that we got wrong. I argued for ending cash bail. Why, you all know, or a lot of you know the argument. Well, a rich guy and a poor guy get accused of the same crime. Rich guy can pay the bail, he leaves, the poor guy can't pay the bail, so he's in prison. So he's in prison for being poor, not for committing the crime. We get it, and it's true. That's why I wanted there to be an end to cash bail. But now I realize after we put it into practice, a giant loophole, an enormous asterisk that we have to address immediately, because it empowers recidivists. So people who are career criminals, they commit a crime, they walk right out. They commit a crime, walk right out. And so, yeah, if they commit murder, they're not gonna walk right out because that is gonna require bail anyway, right? But for a giant percentage of the crimes, they're walking right out, okay?
And that includes violent crimes. And I say that because in states like California, what happened simultaneously with the bail reform was basically reclassifying violent crimes as misdemeanors rather than felonies. And I want to give you examples of what I'm talking about. So for a while, until fairly recently, finally the state legislature realized, oh, this isn't really a politically advantageous thing to keep pushing. But they had reclassified child sex trafficking from felony to misdemeanor. And there were literally multiple times the state legislature, Republicans within California state legislature kept bringing this proposal up to change it back to a felony, and it failed a few times. Finally, it passed. Okay. The other thing was they reclassified domestic violence, including strangulation, from felony to misdemeanor. And so think about what happens when you do that. Cenk has made this point several times on the show. Prosecutors usually engage in these plea deals. So if the domestic violence is starting off at a place where it's considered a misdemeanor, well, that could be pled down to a situation in which the individual who did the strangulation to begin with doesn't serve a single day behind bars. How exactly is that justice for the victims? I get it. You want a fair criminal justice system for everyone, including the defendants. That doesn't mean that you should then construct a system in which you give a giant middle finger to the victims of crime. And that is what's been happening.
And does that serve justice for all? No. When progressives are in favor of justice for all, that includes defendants, that also include victims and civilians. Look, child sex trafficking, you're not walking out. You're not walking out. There's no way. This is insanity. So I can't believe it took several votes for them to change that. And you're gonna abuse your wife, or you're gonna strangle her or your husband, and we're gonna let you walk? We're not gonna let you walk, okay? So some of these crimes need to be felonies, and we need to be serious about violent crimes, okay? So but I wanna be clear about this. One thing we need to fix right away. You commit a second crime, you're gonna need significant bail. And so I don't care if you're rich, then I'll make it $10 million. I don't care, okay? And you want to make it proportional to their income, whatever. But you're not walking out. You commit a second crime, that means you're a serial offender, and we're gonna put you in jail. You're gonna get your day in court, okay? But you're gonna wait for that day in court in prison because you keep committing crimes and hurting innocent people. And we're not gonna let you do it because we're progressives. And progressives fight for justice for everyone. And letting people get victimized is not justice at all.
If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.